I'm gonna have a good day today. Tell them bad mind people stay away. If you know, you know. I'm your host, Sha, and you're tuned in to the Tingz podcast. Being here means that you're ready to learn a little bit more about the Caribbean carnival culture. Whether you're a newbie or a long-time carnival veteran, you're guaranteed to step away with new knowledge. Let's talk to Tingz. What is up, people? This episode is hella delayed, but blame it on life. Blame it on life. It has been nonstop movements and transition since I got back from Antigua, and I'm just catching up, right? A couple days after getting back, I was in full-fledged work mode. And if you're not already aware, I moonlight as a content creator, but my main gig is in education administration. Like, I have legit been earning my paycheck these past few weeks. I even had to give a damn opening speech on the first day of school, which was actually, guess what? Labor Day. I'm like, whose idea was this? Whose idea was this to have school on Labor Day? And then on top of that, y'all know, like, it couldn't just be some regular old speech. I needed to make sure that this speech was top tier, which thankfully, according to the feedback, it was. Then, in the midst of all of that, Baby Tingz was like, all right, look, y'all, it's time I got my own room, and it's time for y'all to send me to daycare. And we were like, well, the big boss has spoken. So sis started daycare the last week in August, and we moved into a new space Labor Day weekend. Yep, sure did. So, like, I'm tired, y'all. Like, I was tired. I'm still catching up. I'm still living out of boxes. And like pre-baby, the space would have been fully unpacked and set up by now. Like, my friends who know me know, like, I don't do boxes long. Like, I unpack real quick. But anywho, so here we are about to wrap up season 4 of the Tingz podcast. Woo, woo. Hey, we did it. And the good news is that not much is changing, but we'll talk about that when we get to season 5. So, fun fact, September 14th was the 9th anniversary of Tingz Nice's existence in this content creation space. Yes, give it up. 9 whole years. So I officially started this journey in 2014, even though I had been carnivaling many, many years prior to that. And I have done like so much under this Tingz Nice umbrella, and I'm constantly assessing things. If you've been rocking with me for a minute, then you know that I'm always looking to see, okay, what's working, what's not working, et cetera, et cetera. I think it's a consistent work in progress, and I've been binge watching the R&B Money podcast, and on the Tyrese episode, he was just like, the beautiful thing about being a creative is that there are no rules. And that, honestly, like, that's it. That's legit my motto. Like, there are no rules. Like, I'm not listening to the social media gurus who say you got to post every day and you got to do this and you got to do that. Like, no, I don't have to do anything, actually. Maybe that's the stubborn, rebellious Aquarian in me, but I'm just like, nah, I don't have to do that. Let my stuff be organic. So anyway, one day, yeah, I might launch a digital planner. 2 weeks from then, I might announce the launch of a new earring line. And 4 weeks after that, I could announce a live workshop. And then I might take a little sabbatical to recharge. Like, you never know, right? Like, my creativity knows no bounds, and my creativity also needs space to breathe, period. Like, I honestly try not to stress out about the whole content creation thing, because when you stress out about it, that is when the joy starts walking out the door. And I am not about that life. So as long as y'all are patient with me and you keep riding with me, I got you. The content will come. All right. So let's talk about this episode. This one is a little different. Many weeks ago, I asked y'all to drop some questions about Antigua Carnival as I was experiencing it. So I dropped that in my stories, and a number of you actually responded. And those of you who are in my broadcast channel also chimed in. So sending a big shout out to those of you who actually participated. Thank you, thank you, thank you. The educator in me truly appreciates it. So I took your questions and I asked my Antigua posse to share their responses, right? So in addition to my views, you also get to hear from 4 carnival vets and 1 international carnival newbie. So this was her first time going abroad attending a carnival. So you get some varied responses, which I think is going to be pretty cool. So we gonna get right into it. There we go. All right, question number 1. When did y'all start planning? When did you buy your flight, book your accommodations, all of that?
Flights and accommodation depend on where you're coming from. I was obviously flying from the UK, so I booked my flight in the September prior, and my flight actually changed 3 times between me booking in September and me flying in August. We didn't book our accommodation until the May before. To be honest, it wasn't difficult to find accommodation. Once you know where you're looking, it's pretty easy to find.
I jumped on it in April. The prices weren't the greatest of all time, but I think as soon as you know you want to go, jump on the flight. It may be cheaper if you purchase before April, and you can really gauge the availability because it is limited. I was told accommodation prices rise regardless during the carnival, so also book that as soon as possible. The rate I paid is not what the rate was that was quoted, so I did my Googles and I found a deal.
Listen, I would definitely say about November, December, because the way these ticket prices were this year, they were ridiculous, and I mean ridiculous. So definitely look from November, December. If you see a round trip for like $700, maybe $800, that is a steal. Because these ticket prices this year were saying almost 3,000, 2,000. I was like, no. So definitely look from November, December.
We actually started planning in early February. We used an app called Hopper to watch the flights, and we booked our flights out of JFK with JetBlue in April because we got a notification from Hopper that they had the flights for $500 round trip, and we booked our accommodations off of Verbo or VRBO, however you want to pronounce it. We paid our deposit in late April, and then we had to pay the remainder balance mid-July.
All right, next question. Someone asked, if you only have a limited amount of days, what days would you travel to Antigua Carnival? Like the length of time.
If you only have a little limited amount of days, I'd say you could probably go from Saturday until after the road. So yeah, because so I already missed Tuesday. Wednesday, you don't really miss much. Thursday's melting pot, you can miss that. Friday I can't actually remember what was on Friday, which obviously shows that you don't actually need to reach until Saturday, because Saturday, Ripple versus Tees, or Ripple times Tees, that was good. And then obviously road Monday, Tuesday. So yeah, if you've got limited days, I'd say Saturday until Tuesday/Wednesday, like after the road.
If I only had limited days, I would come in on the Friday and leave on Wednesday. You will get what you need in that time. You can get enough fat, you'll get the juve, you get the 2 days of road, you'll get some beach time if you want. You can just get like a little variety show, a little peep show into just what the carnival is about and the vibe of the island.
If your days are real limited, I definitely say Thursday to Wednesday. Or if you can't do Thursday, Friday to Wednesday. But you definitely need to be here before Saturday, because Saturday is the day.
No shocker here. The people want to know about location. Where did you stay? Where do you think are the best places or areas to stay when visiting Antigua Carnival?
We stayed in Dickinson Bay area. The furthest vet was Rise, which was okay, but even places like Royalton are 30 minutes away, and other things are 30 minutes away. So I'd say that part of the island is convenient to stay in.
Well, I stayed in Dickinson Bay area. Can't tell you the exact spot because that's my spot. If you're looking for spots, I'd say either Dickinson Bay area or Jolly Beach area. Those are my two recommendations because they're both literally near the beach. Some are even on the beach, so those two.
We stayed in Sugar Ridge neighborhood at the Fairwinds Villa in the St. Mary's area.
The next question that came in, how do you get around? Do you recommend a rental or a driver?
Well, being the type of person I am, I love to drink carnival time, especially since I'm always like usually the designated driver when I'm back home in the States. So I can't get drunk like I want to get drunk because I have to drive. Definitely recommend a taxi because if you know me, yeah. I love to get drunk and drink. So if you're not the drinking type and you're cool with being a designated driver, I would say about, rental. But if you're like me, a person who loves to drink, have a good time, definitely get taxi. So you don't have to worry about getting too drunk that you can't drive.
We got around the island via taxi. We had a driver for our entire trip. Shout out to Everbliss Taxi Services. If you're looking for a taxi driver, Jamal Simon is your man.
We used a driver to get around. However, I would probably recommend a rental if that's a feasible option for you, because getting a ride, if you do not have a pre-arranged arrangement with a driver, is a little bit difficult. Trying to leave, you cannot be spontaneous with it. You cannot be at a fete and let's say you've agreed to leave at 3. You cannot randomly decide at 1:30 a.m., that you want to leave that fete, because your driver will probably be asleep. And you cannot go outside and find an array of taxis outside. It just does not happen in Antigua. If you haven't arranged something in advance, you will struggle to find transportation to take you where you want to go or take you from where you want to go. And I know that from trying to leave Melting Pot for an hour and a half, trying to get a taxi back to my accommodation. And in the end, I ended up going by one of the security from VIP calling a school friend of his who was at the same fete in VIP and asking him if he minded leaving the fete to take me home, because there were no taxis outside. Our driver was not responding to calls or messages. And what he explained before was because we had told him, I think 4 a.m., he had gone to sleep and he was not and he did not wake up until within an hour of the collection time, because that's just how they operate over there.
Now we're getting down to the juice. This next person wants to know, How was your experience with Insane Carnival? I heard pickup was madness.
The collection with Insane Carnival was a nightmare. It was very disorganized. The process was very repetitive. So you arrived, you had to queue up. Then you had to go, when you queued up, you went to speak to somebody, and they had paper copies of what section you were in and what you had booked. And then they gave you a printed out copy of your order once they found it. And you had to go sit down again and queue up some more. The whole process, I believe, took 3 hours, and it was one of my worst pickup experiences that I have ever experienced in over how many years of playing mass. It was horrendous. It was very horrendous.
The pickup for Insane was not great at all, but I was told it's not normally that way. This might have been a bias. I don't know. It wasn't that it was disorganized per se. It was more that the organization was inefficient and ineffective. A very fine line, I know. I did enjoy the responsiveness of the Insane team pre and during Carnival. If I sent them a message, they responded, and in good time. On the road, the vibes were up. I wish I had known in advance that we had to stay in sections on Tuesday. That may have influenced some of my decisions, but I had a great time regardless. 3 judging points is a lot, but crossing that stage at night was best. A great culmination to the road. Yeah.
How was my Insane experience? Amazing, okay? The word amazing can't even justify it. Like, you had to be there to experience. Like, damn, that was one for the books. Not gonna lie. As far as costume pickup, if you heard the madness, yeah, it was madness. Not gonna lie. Madness, like, it was bad. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But I knew they were gonna make up for it on the road, and they definitely didn't. By far. Totally forgot about the whole costume pickup, because they definitely made up for it, and I knew it was going to. So,
experience with Insane. For me, it was a bit of a mixed bag. Now, let's talk about costume pickup. I got there maybe 15 minutes after costume collection started for my particular section, and they just were not ready yet. So we were waiting maybe about 30 minutes before they had us file in and sit down. And then we had to go from one desk to another. Now, unfortunately, the way they had us come in and sit down to be serviced, the person who was guiding us just didn't have an organized system. I think it would have just made more sense to maybe like have numbers so that people were in order. It made me feel bad to see people who had been waiting online early get skipped because people sat in a chair closer to the desk. Like, the person who was guiding us just was not prepared. We had to go to a desk first, confirm which costume we were picking up, make sure our balance was cleared. And then they took us to another section, and we had to wait there so that we can actually collect the actual costume. And I think that is where things fell down, because it was like they were spending 15 to 20 minutes on one person. And when I tell you that building had no AC, I think the summer in general was very, very hot. They had no AC, and we were sweating in there. Nobody offered us water, nothing. I think when I got up there, after it had been like maybe an hour and a half of just waiting, I finally got up to get my things and my friend's things. He was asking me, the person assisting me was asking me like how I was. And I was like, honestly, like, it's extremely hot and uncomfortable in here. I just haven't been having a good time. I'm thirsty. Like, you know what I mean? And so I think he tried to soften the blow by saying, oh, that's how it's going to be on the road. It's going to be hot. And I was like, well, on the road, there's going to be music. There's going to be water. Hopefully there's going to be drinks. And only then did he offer me water. So I just think the experience for costume collection could have just been eased if maybe they were more organized. And also, if you can give out water to people, especially if you have us in a place where it's no AC and we're waiting for a long time. When I did collect my costume, I got back home and I tried everything on, and just the cut of the monokini was not it for me. Now, luckily, Insane did have a seamstress on the premises. So I had to go back, I think, the following day. And, she had said that she had been seeing a lot of people complaining about the cut of the crotch, especially like everything was going to be outside. Okay. The cut of the crotch and then also just the top. So she was able to give me some stitches and just help me out a little bit so that I felt a little bit more comfortable with wearing it. But I have to admit, like when I got my costume and tried it on, I was just very, very worried. Unfortunately, my costume or section maybe just wasn't produced very well. Things were falling apart before we even pulled off. So I ended up coming back home with no real costume. So that's the first time that happened. But I will say everything else on the road was like really nice. The bar, I didn't have any issues like getting drinks or anything. I never encountered anything running out. So that was like a positive. So for Carnival Monday, when we got there, I just wasn't sure what to expect. But it was nice. Like we had a nice little setup, lunch, you can get lunch. And when I tell you like lunch, like they gave us real food. Like I ended up throwing away, what I couldn't finish because it was just a lot of food. So I love that. I think they were struggling trying to get people water at first when we were still waiting to pull off, but they got that sorted. But I was just not used to having lunch at the start and then pulling off. I like that though. I would, I think people who are interested in making sure they get food, if you like that, like that's a great touch.
Here's one. What was your most memorable moment?
I'll tell you what stood out to me as Antiguan was they can't be told what to do. And one memorable moment I have is at Melting Pot when Bungie and Fayan came to perform, and Bungie was performing Differentology, and he wanted the crowd to sing the lyrics. And he turned the mic on the crowd and he said, "Finish it for me." And not a single person sang the lyrics. Everybody was vibing in the crowd. They were walking up, they were whining, but nobody sang any of the lyrics. And he faced the mic to the crowd for an extended period of time. It was very awkward, but I swear to you, that moment stands out to me because I obviously went to Grenada the following week, and again, Bungie and Fayan was there, and he performed the same song, and he did the exact same thing with the crowd. And in Grenada, everybody sang. The crowd sang the lyrics to the song, and he had the mic facing the crowd. But in Antigua, it was crickets. So Antiguan people cannot be told what to do. If they're vibing at a fete, they're going to be vibing, but do not give them instructions.
From start to finish, I knew I was in Antigua. The Antiguan music on the road did it for me. They pumped their Antiguan music. They was not playing with us. I'm from a small island and they played so many tunes that I remember from my youth. So I was in rhythm/groovy heaven. I've never been to Antigua, but I grew up on an island where our band, their lead singer, his history was Antiguan. And so he brought in a lot of that influence. So I was hearing Antigua tunes in my youth, left, right, and center. And to hear all of that again, it just felt nostalgic, but it was new at the same time. And this is going to be a little weird edition, but also the bread and cheese.
Let me tell you, right? This, by far, in my 18 years of playing Master Antigua, was the greatest stage crossing ever. Because, listen, I was in Afrobeats. We were lit, crossing the stage, and we were in front of Flames. But when Flames came on to cross the stage, and the Bagon with the fire was all in it, I was like, yo. Like, the energy was crazy. Insane. Not phrasing. Insane. For real, for real. Like, it was just, the energy was crazy. Like, definitely my greatest stage crossing ever. Especially in Antigua. Ever.
My most memorable moment from Antigua Carnival was crossing the stage. That was a wonderful experience. And I can't wait to do it again. It was so much energy on that stage, and it's just a high that I know I'll be chasing for the rest of my life.
And our final question for the night, what would you do differently?
If I went to Antigua, what I would do differently is I'd probably get more downtime. The feds aren't crazy. You do not need to reach on time. The feds go. One thing I learned about Antiguan people actually is they will reach feds on time, and the feds will still go until late, and somehow they have energy to reach early and leave late, and I don't know where they get that sort of energy from. But if I could go back, I would reach feta later, and I would get in more tourism time, more downtime, and I wouldn't worry about reaching anywhere on time because their fets go late and they start late. No, sorry, they don't start late. They start on time and they go late. So there's no need to reach. If something starts at 9 p.m. and it is going on till 4 a.m., it will go until 6 a.m. So there's no need to try and be there for like 10 p.m. It's a little bit crazy.
The only thing that I would do differently going forward would be to travel with a smaller group. I think there were 6 of us, and it was a lot to manage with there being so many first timers. So I think my group will be smaller going forward.
Okay, so before I wrap up my thoughts on Antigua Carnival, I'm going to put a little plug right here for a survey that I'm doing. I am a firm believer in the power of feedback, and gosh darn it, I want to hear from you. So I need like 5 minutes of your time to go and fill out the survey that I have posted on my website, and it's also found in the links on my Instagram page, because I want to know how I can do a better job within my creative realm, right? I want to know how I can connect with you more. I want to know what you're interested in. I want to know some of the podcast topics that you want me to talk about, or just content topics in general. I want to know who you want to have on the podcast for season 5. Maybe there are some people that I haven't thought about. Maybe you have connections. I want all the things. Okay. Maybe there's some YouTube videos. Maybe there's some tutorials that you need in your life that I can provide. So go on and help a sister out, but you're really like helping yourself out. Like just help us help each other, you know? So yeah, go on and do that survey for me, please. It'll be open. And I just can't wait to read the responses. All right, let me add my 2 cents or whatever. But seriously, shout out to Tenny, Sim, Molly, Juju, and Morgan for participating and sending these responses, because I think it's such a valuable thing to have the thoughts of others. So I'm really, really grateful and excited to just have them on here so that y'all can hear from them. Morgan gave y'all the deets, right? Like Hopper is definitely a good look when you are trying to plan a trip. But I'm always like hella anxious with them, because it's like, you know, if it's getting closer and closer and closer to the trip, and then they never say that the price is going down, it's like at some point, yeah, I gotta bite the bullet and then just buy this ticket. But then with my luck, it'll be like the next week after I buy the ticket, the price will go down. But anyway, Hopper is a good look. VRBO is also a good look. I used to use them when I used to plan my crop over trips back in the day. I booked my flights for Antigua between April and May. And since I was still trying to figure out how my summer was going to flow officially, it took me longer than usual to book. But I typically purchase my flights in pieces anyway, because it just feels better sometimes, to be honest with you. As I have stated before, I hopped on this whole Antigua boat real late, so I was very hands off with the process. Shout out to Juju for doing all of the things, and we actually stayed in the Buckley's area, which I had no beef with. If I had to do this trip over again, Here's what I would do differently. And I don't want you to think that I didn't have a great time, because I had a great time, right? I enjoyed myself thoroughly. But here's what I would have done. I like what Juju did. She arrived a number of days before most of us did, and she got to attend t-shirt mass. I want to do that. I would love to do that. And then also get more opportunity to explore the island, even though I've been to Antigua multiple times, but still having different experiences, right? Then I definitely would have removed the breakfast fete off of my itinerary because it didn't quite align with my spirit. I enjoyed BFF, which was the first fete that I got to. I think I would have enjoyed it more if Inter-Caribbean had not delayed my flight. I thoroughly enjoyed Ripple and Teas. That was so good. It was so good. Thoroughly enjoyed Ripple and Teas. Sunday, I think y'all need to just bring lemonade back, y'all. I don't know why y'all didn't host it this year, but bring lemonade back, because that is what I had planned on having in that Sunday spot, but they didn't host it this year. So that's why we went to the breakfast fete. So again, breakfast fete wasn't really my type of scene. If I knew that, I would have done something differently. Oh, here's one thing that I did appreciate about the breakfast fete, and they also did it at Juve for our food. They have coolers randomly situated throughout the event with like water and just like non-alcohol. Actually, no, there was beer. There was beer as well. Like just like water, beer, like simple things. So like you didn't have to go to the bar. You could just go to the cooler, get some ice or get a bottle of water, get a beer or whatever, and go along your way. I thought that was freaking genius. So that, love that. Y'all need to keep that. Like other places need to adopt that. I feel like it was clutch. It was clutch. And just so you have a visual, it's not like a regular blue cooler. It's like this massive, it looks like the size of one of those inflatable pools that you put in the yard. And and it had a cover. And so it was amazing. I thought it was amazing. And that was it for the fets, right? So there wasn't a lot to choose from. And I think that's okay, which is why with Antigua, you get a very vacation-y feel because you still get to relax and still get to party and do all your carnival stuff. A lot of us veterans are used to having to choose between a plethora of fete options that happen during the same time and on the same day. You don't really have that in Antigua. I think Rise and Ripple and Tease is something that kind of overlaps, but you can still do them both. And if you know, like the homegirl who was on Ripple, like sis was sleeping for like maybe 2 hours before she got up because she came straight from Rise. So it's doable. It's just not recommended. For the road experiences, we played with caution for Juve. Didn't have any complaints with them really. We got food in the beginning before we got on the road, and it was nice. Like I liked the way that we started out. And then at some point it just got mad aggressive with the paint and the powder and the water. And I was just like, what is happening? And just like, they were serious about being behind the speaker truck. Like that's usually the spot that I tried to hold down, but I felt like it was me and a couple other girls that was just like beefing for this spot. But I'm like, you know what? Whatever. I'm gonna just be here. Y'all gonna be annoyed. We're just gonna be annoyed with each other because I'm not moving, right? So there was that. But that route was just, I felt like it was just so long. I felt like I was out there for a long time. And then I was like, I can't chip anymore. I can't wait any longer. I'm tired. And the sun was just coming out, especially once morning hit. And I went ahead of the truck so that I could get food, got the food, sat there, and I was already in I'm ready to go when you are mode. And that's what we did. We left. Now, if you have been keeping up with all the things that I've been posting about Antigua from start to right now, you'll know that in my mind, what I really wanted to do was play with Mist and Insane. I wanted to play with Mist on Monday and I wanted to jump with Insane on Tuesday. That didn't happen because I was just lazy with it, okay? And I didn't go forth with the plan, okay? So on Monday, I had a good time with Insane. But at some point, we did go searching for the Mist truck because I just wanted to see what the vibes were like, what was going on. And I got great energy. And also, like I said, the music was more familiar. If I immersed myself in the Antiguan music before I went on the trip, like I normally do, I would have had a much better time. And again, that's not to say that I didn't have a good time, but again, the level of enjoyment would have been higher had I been prepared for the songs. Because in my mind, I'm just like, there's songs, there are dances, there are people doing things, and I'm just like, I feel left out. I don't like it, right? And I am a dancer at heart, so I'm just like, no, I need to know all the things, and I didn't know all the things, and so it was just annoying. You know what I mean? I wanted to. I wanted to know, like, for me, the moment, like, a song can play for like 2 seconds and I'll know what song it is. And that didn't happen when that was happening. So I couldn't get hyped with the people. Like, it would be like a whole minute would pass and I'm like, oh, it's this song. So yeah, I don't like that. Tuesday was a much better experience for me. And I don't know if that just came with just because of the costume or whatever, but I really, really, really enjoyed myself on Tuesday, even with all of the judging points. And I say all of because there were a lot of them. Like, we stayed in our section the whole day, bro. As the VIP people say, we stayed in the section the whole day, my son. I was just like, wait, like, I didn't really see anybody. I like the people that are on this podcast that you are hearing from. I didn't really see them that day until the beginning or until the very end. In between, it was just like, I didn't really see you. I saw the people who were in my section and that was it. And even with that, I had a really, really, really great time on the road. And also, I think what helped was that because people are able to play with different bands on either the Monday or the Tuesday, Tuesday had less people on the road. I think more people go out to play Monday Mass. And then it's like a lot of people that I saw on Monday were like in the stands on Tuesday. So I was just like, okay, there's more space. It was just a lot. I was like, oh, the snacks came out because I was internally complaining like, damn, I really could use a little snack right now on Monday that never came. But I think there was just too many people for me to even realize that the snacks were being handed out. So I was seeing all these wrappers on the floor. I'm like, well, I want the chips. I want the fruit thingies. I want the candy. Where's that at? I found it on Tuesday. And I'm going to co-sign what Julia said about the food. She was not exaggerating. But I also don't know if everyone got the amount of food that we did. So they had different stations depending on what you registered for. So I had registered for pork because I don't eat pork as much as I used to. So I'm like, oh, you know what? Let me get the pork. And so you had a pork chip on your wristband if that's what you selected. And so there were different tents based on what you selected. So many of the other tents I noticed they had like a half size portion of food. It was like a small container of food. But the tent that we went to, I think Julia had pork as well. We got a big plate of food and it was full. So there was the meat and the rice and the salad. It was like, yes, yes, give it me. Like, am I going to eat all this? Probably not, but it was good. So I gave some of mine away. So yes, the food before the road, and I think I put this in the blog article that I did, I thoroughly enjoy eating before we pull off. I think that is wise. I'd rather that than pulling off, no food, stopping for lunch, having the energy drain, and then having to rev up once again. Like, no, give me the food in the beginning. Like, that was clutch. That was clutch. And then they had food at the end. On Tuesday, honestly, I can't even remember what happened on Monday, but on Tuesday, we definitely had options. So, like Sim was saying, the bread and cheese at the end was everything. Like, that was everything. Like, I was like, I don't need the meat. I just want the bread and the cheese. That's it. And something to drink. I'm good. So yeah, they did very well with that. Like, I didn't really have any beef with the way that they organized giving us nourishment, like, trucks on the road. Like, that was cool too. And I just want to throw this out there, like, y'all, poor Morgan learned that lesson that many of us vets learned a long time ago, that going to any trip, especially if this is your first time and it's the first time of theirs as well, with a bunch of people, no matter how close y'all are, no matter how well your relationships thrive, like, just going on a trip with a bunch of people, any amount more than you yourself, is a hardcore challenge sometimes, and it can bring a lot of frustration. So I hope, Morgan, and wishing you well on your future international carnival adventures. And yeah, listen, we gotta protect our energy and choose our travel buddies wisely, because it'd be rough sometimes. But anyway, that's it, y'all. That's Antigua Carnival in a nutshell. This podcast is a little longer than it usually is, because we have so many thoughts, and because, there's I packed a lot in here. But hopefully your attention span is okay, and you can always just pause it and come back later. That's totally fine. So Antigua Carnival 2023, we did it. It was a great time. We will have some lessons that we've learned. We know what we're going to do moving forward. If you have questions about it, if you're trying to plan for 2024, let us know. Holla at us. I'm going to put the information of all the willing guests in the show notes, so you can hit them up directly if you want to know more, right? If their style and if their mentality seems to mesh with yours, just slide into the DMs and be like, hey, heard you on the podcast, wanted to know more about X experience, and boom, there you have it. So this is why we're here. Happy to have you. Thank you for rocking with me for season 4. Season 5 is coming. The guests are coming. I'm so excited because I just started scheduling, and ooh, y'all gonna be like, oh my gosh, she got her on the podcast. Oh my God, he's coming on the podcast. Yep, they coming, y'all, and we are going to have real conversations. We're diving deep into the carnival business in season 5, because I want y'all to have insight, so that there can be less dragging and more grace as we go through, the carnival bacchanal, because it ain't carnival without bacchanal. Anyway, shout out to you. Big up yourself for being a subscriber. Thank you. All right. Later.